Reverend Scott is at Unitarian in the city. He is preaching there today to help out that congregation. He's wearing the other one of these stoles, so he's shining your light there for Community Unitarian. And of course I miss him, but it's wonderful to have this great crew, which includes David Sanders here on piano today. Okay, now for the sermon. You are every age that you have ever been. You are every age that you have ever been. You are not 25, 48, or 92 only. On your second birthday, you don't stop being one. You just get to be two also. Starting to make sense? On your 85th birthday, you are 1 and 2 all the way up to 85. So for example, if you are Reverend Scott, you are and will always be very much 22. In addition to whatever else you are. He read this and he suggested that I put in 13. I thought that was a little young for him, but I gave him 22. This is wisdom. And I know it is wisdom because I learned it from the great theologian, George Carlin. Carlin, that crotchety and brilliant comedian who unveiled so much truth hidden behind so many of our assumptions. Time, when we relate to it in this way, does not capture us in a single moment. Think of it. Your being, your body, is the vestige of all you have ever been and how you have moved through time from the beginning to this point. And beginning, which beginning am I talking about? Is it when your form first came to be in gestation? Or is it when the elements that now make up your form, the hydrogen, nitrogen, and carbon, exploded into the cosmos with that great, great bang? If you go with the latter, you are very, very old indeed. What I'm getting at mystically and cosmically and Carlin-y is that you are not a moment. You are not a Snapchat blip. You are not a dot on a timeline. You are the extension of the timeline. You are its stretch. You are part of a continuum. As the psalmist says, I knew you before you were in the womb. And the body is a powerful metaphor for understanding the true testament of time. Because the body is multi-dimensional. It is wide, tall, and deep. I mean that in all respects, all the good ones. And the body speaks the truth of our being. That it's not just a blip, but a continuum. It literally allows our life, our full life, to be carved into its scars and wrinkles. I remember the first time I noticed the changing shape of my hands. from the hands of a teenager into the hands of an adult. I saw suddenly the way that my veins were appearing above the surface, the way my father's had always done, at least in my memory. And I ran my fingers over the scar on my right palm, born of a brush with a metal fence in kindergarten. And I saw the way that many sun-drenched summers spent digging in the sand or planting in the dirt had textured my skin and gathered it in these deep rivulets around my knuckles. And then I did what my mom taught me to do as a child, to bend the top knuckles of all my fingers without bending the other ones. Try it. My mom told me then that only the descendants of the tribe of Levi, the original priests from ancient Israel, only they could do this with their hands. And I believed her then, because it was a lovely thing to believe. And who's to say how much that strange promise had to do with my finding the call to ministry many years later. And even today, when I bend my hand like this, time snaps and bends so that all these moments can meet one another and know their complicity in my present. Our bodies are multi-dimensional. You might only see three, but time, Einstein proclaimed, is the fourth dimension. There's width, expressed as the dimension from right to left or west to east. There is height, expressed as the dimension from up to down or north to south. And there is depth, expressed as the dimension from front to back. Then there's time. And time is what allows us to measure the way a three-dimensional object moves forward or back, or circularly, or from the past to the future. Are you taking notes? This is a physics test here. We're preparing for the physics examination. But here, let me demonstrate this physics. I'm about to be a three-dimensional object moving through space. Right? And we measure the duration as time. Make sense? Einstein wasn't all that smart. We can all get it. Einstein's theory explained for the first time why, if someone traveled at 99 times the speed of light, they would age only 1 year, when someone who was not traveling at that speed would age 7. Now there's some good cosmic Botox. But other than that, it has absolutely nothing to do with this sermon. I just wanted to say that. What compels me here is the way that time expressed as a dimension changes our relationship to it and saves us from drying up and blowing away. Saves us from becoming dry bones, scattered about dry beds in a soulless, breathless existence. Because time as a dimension is ours. We embody it. It's not something that owns us, that frustrates and imprisons us. As in, I don't have any time. Or, if there were only one more hour in the day. Right? You say this. I say this. Ezekiel in his vision walks through the valley of dry bones, and his God asks him, Son of man, can these bones live? Ezekiel is a prophet of Israel during exile. He was a priest from the tribe of Levi. What is known of Ezekiel is derived solely from the book that bears his name. He was among the Jews exiled to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar in 597 BC. And there, among the exiles, he received his call to become a prophet. Ezekiel lived during a time of international upheaval. The Assyrian Empire that had once conquered the Syro-Palestinian area and destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel began to crumble under the blows of a resurgent Babylon. The people, forced from their homes and eventually living in a new and unknown land, are distracted from their faithful lives by pressures that come on all sides. Their temple, with its holy of holies, was destroyed as they walked to exile. It was destroyed as they were walking to Babylon. Everything they once understood as theirs, as solid, everything that was promised to them by their ancestors has crumbled all around. Ezekiel is speaking to a people who are trapped in a moment, stolen from their past, with no sure promise of a future. Ezekiel's God asks him, "Son of man, can these bones live?" The people of Israel have forgotten their depth, a dimension. They are holding their breath. They are sitting in limbo. They are waiting. They are bent alone on survival, on the next meal, and on safety from the violence that storms on all sides. We can feel this, right? Violence on all sides. An anti-Semitic shooting in a synagogue. A racist shooting in a grocery store. I'm not talking about Babylon here, or am I? A domestic violence murder. A soldier homicidal in a bar. A nation split, torn each from the other on partisan lines. Violence on all sides. Exile from the world we thought was our birthright. We can feel this, yes? The people living in a new and unknown, unrecognizable, blood-soaked, strange land, exiled from what they thought was home, stolen from their faithful lives, and flattened. Without depth, by the pressures that come on all sides. They are like bones littering a desert floor, exhausted, numbed, fleshless. And Ezekiel's God asks him, "Son of man, can these bones live?" I don't know about you, but when I am overwhelmed by the weight of our world, when I am frightened, when I am held captive by the ache of my nation, when all I can see is pain that I cannot assuage, I have two choices: to collapse in or to reach out, to hold my breath and to hold it, or to breathe. To let my focus go thin, to see only the next task and the one after that. Or to let my focus grow wide, to know every small step as part of a continuum, part of the moral arc bending towards justice with hope. To feel myself not as a blip, but a part of something much larger than myself, part of the march of time that my ancestors bore and my descendants in love and faith will bear for eons to come. When I am beset with grief, with terror, with loss, there are times when I choose the former path. When I wrongly believe that my to-do list will be my salvation. When I hide from the enormity of the pain by making myself very small, flat, and dimensionless. But there are other times when I breathe deep and fill myself with the breath of life, what Ezekiel calls the breath of God, and what I do when I do. These bones live. This is where those three themes in our service come together. Because remember that time is a dimension. That we are four dimensions. And time is how we understand our three dimensions in motion. And that we are a continuum. So we embody four dimensions: height, width, depth, and time. We embody time. Time is one of our dimensions. It is our motion. It is our action. It is our being in this world. Maybe killing time is not such a good idea. The phrase, "I don't have any time," shrinks us. It captures us in a moment and it steals our power. I feel it every time I say that. I don't have any time. I feel caught and trapped. So let me ask you this. Do you have time today to save the world? Do you have time to use your four dimensions to hug someone? You can say it. Do you have time to listen to the pain of a friend? When you're doing three other things and the phone rings, can you hold for one moment the possibility that the voice on the other line will be someone you need to hear? Do you have time to breathe deep and know that breath as a gift, as a blessing? Can you remember when you are pitying yourself that you are, as the Chippewa song says, being carried by great winds across the sky? If you can do any of these things, then you have time today to save the world. Because these are the kinds of acts that put flesh back on dry bones and lift us from the desert floor again to our humanity and our hope. Do you have time today to find our justice leaders at their table in Fletcher Hall? Do you have the space in your four-dimensional self to hold what they share with you? Can you pause to listen and then act so that perhaps you might breathe life into someone who needs your holy deliverance? Because in my theology, we all breathe that life into dead bones. Many of us say, I have to do something, and then in the next breath, but I don't have time. Time is you in motion. Yes, we fill our days, and yes, we have to make choices, but time is not our captor, and we are not its captive. Our justice leaders have made a commitment to make the work of changing the world accessible because they know how busy we all are. They know that we all feel the pressure of life bearing down with many time-demanding activities on our agendas. That's why they put it right there in Fletcher Hall. Activities that just take a few moments of your time so that we can all be a part of the work of saving the world. We are not exiles. We will make our own home here. And we will save the world as we save ourselves. We will breathe deep and know that we are all four of our dimensions. We will breathe deep and know we, in every moment, have much, so very much to be and to give. Amen.